So today's video, we're going to talk about Oasis Network. We are going to do something a little bit different though, an entry plan and an exit plan, because I want to put my Bitcoin into this. I want a certain number. I'm not going to mention my number, but you get the idea. So we're going to talk about the BTC pairs. We're going to talk about profit taking potentially in USD as well, to make it obvious, right? So if you're new, if you like these videos, let me know. If you want me to cover one, let me know too, and I will try and get around it, okay? So as you know, up to you if you know this, I like Rose. I've been talking about it quite a lot. Did a video on a price prediction. Check this video out, please. And yeah, the price prediction is a little bit iffy with this one because it came out at a certain time where it wasn't really fully established. It kind of went high, but not high enough. But we may well see bigger fruits of the development that's been happening over the course of the last 2 years in the new cycle, okay? So let's talk about it. The BTC pair, okay? Let's talk about the BTC pair. Now, if you don't know this, BTC pairs are very, very interesting. If you look at BTC dominance, the higher that is, the more opportunity you have to buy. I talk about this an awful lot, right? I talk about putting some Satoshis away, just nibbling away, whatever, part of your portfolio. Then you can move it into altcoins at the right possible time to grow your Bitcoin, okay? So we're going to do that dynamic in this video, okay? So let's talk about the obvious. This is low. Okay, 139 sats. I've got a price range that I want to buy at. You could probably see it on the screen. Now, I talk about my buy and sells on my Patreon. I know it's a shameless plug. Getting a little bit sick of people going, oh, but you didn't do that. Journals there, right? So when I buy, I will tell you on here, or alternatively on my YouTube membership, you get little emojis and whatever, and I will also put it in the post there to members only. When I buy things, when I sell things, because I believe in accountability, and I also like to do it for my own learning. Journals are amazing, right? So what I'm aiming to achieve here, this is the interesting part. I've got currently 52% of my portfolio in Bitcoin. I want to use at least 25% of that into altcoins at the right time. The right time could be the absolute bottom here at 100 or 110 sats. Could go lower. But I'm willing to bet that over the course of a bull cycle, we're going to make some of that money back and maybe double, triple, maybe even quadruple our Bitcoin. Now, I'm not saying we're going to go to all-time highs here, but what I'm saying is there's potential undervalued elements here for Rose versus BTC, where we may well make some Bitcoin, which might be quite bloody good, right? So let's talk about the obvious entry plot. Now, we've got two main obvious levels. We're kind of on one now, but this one's the obvious, right? Yes, we can go lower. Having to say this, but between 100 and 110 sat is probably quite a nice area to level in for me. I am looking at buying some a little bit sooner potentially, but we'll see. At the minute, we're looking at a BTC dominance going a little bit higher, right? It's currently on a bit of a rampage right now. It might go to 56%, but we'll see. If that does happen, there's a pretty damn good chance that Rose and others around it will continue to fall. We might get below 100 sats. So it's all about how much money you want to put in. Obviously, the lower it goes, the more Satoshi value you're going to get, right? But I often say this, if you're new around here, welcome. Don't get fucking greedy, basically, because sometimes it'll pop off like a rocket. Look at what's happened recently with Chainlink, Solana, etc. They do just go bang. So that's the entry plan, right? Between that sort of level. In terms of USD, you know, let's be honest here, not a bad place to buy. But let's talk about potential exit plans. I'll do the BTC price plan first. I've got it all on here. Now, I like how it's invisible. It's actually yellow. With the problem with this is there's a lot of psychological numbers, right? Some of them I've missed out, some of them I'm not. Now, if we're looking at profit taken here, now this is kind of the obvious bit of information I've got to give you. You've got to look at the most obvious level. So if we go to the line chart, you can see where things close, right? For me, the first big yan is here, roughly 300 Satoshis. To me, that looks like a nice little level to do a little bit of TP action, right? Now, this is a thing. I need to be obvious here. I need to be honest with you. It's kind of an obvious level, but at the same time, we've got to look at why is it so obvious? Well, when we start looking at, you know, taking 10% out or whatever it may be, the reality is you got to look at where price goes to and where it kind of stops and turns around. to this point, it's a huge run. But what I'm going to say is I'm going to take out 20% here, because that is a monstrous run. Because when you look at this level here, yeah, you got enough, but you may not want to be like, not really convinced, because obviously Bitcoin also is a little bit like that. It can get a bit hairy, but you may want to take a little bit off the table here. But the reality is probably not in the Satoshi pairs. However, much higher up though, when we're looking at this level, you basically, if it goes to that point, you've pretty much doubled your Bitcoin. If you put 1 BTC in there, you will have 2 if you pull it all out, obviously. Obviously, if you only take out 20%, you won't. You get the idea. So when that's important, you got to look at those sort of levels. So for me, this is kind of the most obvious level. If I move to the, the candles, you can kind of see why it's so important. The next one, and again, it's kind of obvious. It's kind of simple. I would probably say we're looking at this clear and obvious level here, roughly around 400 Satoshis. So we're looking at about 300 and 400 Satoshis. Probably take out a little bit more there as well. Depends on how much you want to take out though. As I say, this is for me. I would probably take out another 10% there. I think from that point onwards, I will be very much reserved in terms of how much I want to get out of this. It would depend on the asset and the growth of the asset. For obvious reasons, it could get a bit hairy pretty quickly. Now, finally, we'll do one more. I don't want to go too deep because, as I say, sometimes the Satoshi pairs don't run as heavy, but when you look at the USD pairs, they do, because obviously if Bitcoin goes to say 80, 100K, whatever it may be, you may find that USD pairs might be quite a good place to take some monies off the table. I think this, to me, is probably the most obvious in terms of looking at it. So you got a level roughly 300 sats, take 10% off or 20% off, up to you. You've got an obvious level at roughly around 400 Satoshis here. Yeah, go for it. And then obviously about 550 give or take. The reason why I'm saying these levels is because they have been levels of resistance in the past and support. Again here, resistance, a little bit of support, tiny bit, and then fall through, right? Again, resistance, huge levels. Now, this would allow you then to have quite a lot of monies in the market. Now, this is what is going to confuse people, I think. And I'll be honest with you, I know people will get confused. It doesn't matter what you're selling, all right? So when you're selling in BTC or USD, it just depends on what you want to do. Personally, I always say sell some like 20-30% of your bags into BTC at the time of which you want to, and then the rest of it could be in USD. The USD could remain in stables, and then, funny enough, you can maybe wait for the prices to fall in BTC and rebuy back low, get more units. It's up to you. But if we're going to go for this is kind of obvious in terms of levels. But this could go much, much higher, right? But as I say, sometimes Satoshi pairs don't go as high as you want in a second cycle because Bitcoin's powerful, Bitcoin goes stronger, and Bitcoin gets to a high price. But that being said, there's nothing saying that from 600 sats onwards, it might be just a let it run scenario, and you're thinking, well, if it runs, just keep taking profits at levels, right? Because at the end of the day, if it goes to 600 Satoshis from 100 sats, give or take, if you buy at 100 sats or below that, and you go to like say 600 Satoshis around this point here, that's like a 5x. If you have 1 BTC, you have literally just made 5. That's scary when you think about it. So you have 6 BTC just sitting around. That is madness, right? And obviously if the price of BTC is say 100K, you can do the maths in terms of how much money you've made by putting 1 BTC in roughly 30K. And now you've got, yeah, get the idea? Good. Moving on to USD. Now this is kind of more relatable to a lot of people for obvious reasons. It's a little bit easier to do it, but this really is round psychological level kind of situations here with Rose, which is kind of like, makes me chuckle a little bit, just the way it is and how it kind of looks. Because when we look at this, and this is hugely important by the way, the first level is roughly around here, but I'm going to ignore that one. I prefer this level. I think roughly around 10 cents is like a huge psychological number. Let's be absolutely honest here. Anything that is a round number in crypto tends to be quite gravitational and also psychological. So you're obviously going to take a little bit off the table just in case it rejects. You want to pay yourself, right? That's still a 2 and a bit X. It's still like, okay, that's all right. That'll do. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Now, gets through there, it might absolutely ramp it up. Now, it's kind of an obvious level. You know I'm going to say it here. Why? One, it's roughly around 20 cents. And 2, it's kind of obvious. Look at the line chart. It's been resistance. It's been support. It's a key level. Take another 10% off the table, or a bit more if you want to. Now, I'm pretty bullish on Rose and I want it to do well. So I'm not going to go too ham on taking profits too early. But what I will say is from this point onwards, from 30 cents, I think I would rather, just in case, take a little bit more out, just a little bit more of a wedge out, and then that could be literally 40% of the market at some nice, beautiful levels, and the rest of it can be running potentially, right? Now, the next one and the most obvious level, and again, I said I've on this post-it note, I've missed it out. You can obviously see the levels here. That's roughly just above 40 cents. Now for me, again, go down to 10% here. That is a decent chunk out the market. That's 40% out, give or take. 50% out of the market. Also, depending if you want to use this lower level or not, or this level, it's up to you. Again, this is just what I'm thinking in terms of key levels where I will be taking profit. Now, again, if you've got half your bag ready to run and it goes beyond all-time highs, that could be mental still. The thing that I often get criticized on with these videos is people don't comprehend taking 10% out or 20% out. Some people like to buy, and I know it sounds daft, from these lows to these highs, and they'll go, I'm just going to take profit all in one. But you don't know where the market's going to go. We might go to certain levels and come back around. You want to get yourself paid because you can reevaluate at that much higher value from these lows at here, that you may want to take all your bag out if something's gone calamity wrong. Some people don't make that judgment call quick enough, and it becomes a problem. That problem becomes your issue. You are now a bag holder. You're like, fuck, because something's happened, right? So always pay yourself as well as you can, because as I say, you could go to 30 cents, it may not go higher. You've still made some good money, but you need to make that judgment call. Do I take more out? Do I take less out? Do I want to pay myself? Do I want to do this and the other? Do I want to put it in other bags? Do I want to take it to Bitcoin because something's happened with Bitcoin and it's more, of a better play in that pair? So many mental areas, right? But you've got to be so careful with taking profit, right? Again, as I say with most of my other videos, I like to say this and I like to do this. From this point onwards, give or take around probably about 50 cents in all fairness, it will be a fucking just let it run. Let it, or even, if I get it right, let it run. You get the idea, right? So from this point onwards, you're like, well, let's see what happens, because you don't know where it's going to go. It's never really had a proper bull cycle with a full developed chain and all the intricacies, what is built on rows, which is hugely important. We're already starting to see some nice development curves and the wallet growth and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's understandable that we may well see an absolute crazy move, or we might not. It might be a complete failure, you don't know, right? So hopefully this has helped people. If you do want to see some of my buy orders and not so much buy orders, but essentially the data I'm buying, join the Patreon. It's a great community as well. It's not just extra videos, it's a community where people help each other. It's great. But yeah, this looks the most logical elements for me. It's kind of simple, it's kind of noddy for a lot of people. I know some people are like, this is really boring. But trust me, having a plan is hugely important, because when you start getting to the emotions of it and you've put £2,000 or £3,000 in, or $1,000, whatever, and you're sitting there with $10,000, $12,000, $13,000 and you're like, what do I do? And you don't do anything because you think it's going to keep going up forever, and it turns on you and you lose a load of money. A plan will stop you from having that problem. Yes, you may not hit some optimum levels, but at least you're going to get paid. You're not going to get absolutely drowned and survive. You need to survive, right? So there we go. If you enjoy, leave a like, leave a comment, whatever. If you want me to cover your coin, I will try and do it. I am putting exit plans on my Patreon as images like this, so people can go back and relate to them. It's another good little thing for people if you want it.